Now, there are extra tags that we're going to look at, and these are called Sematic HTML. We won't be writing any code for this now, but since we'll be starting JavaScript soon, these are tags that we will definitely use. So Sematic HTML refers to the use of HTML that conveys meaning and structure to both the browser and the developer. Okay, now all these HTML tags exist for a reason. When you add an anchor tag, which is the A tag, to your web page, you are letting the browser know, okay, this thing is a hyperlink. Okay, it can redirect anyone or the user to another resource or to another website. And if the person you are collaborating with, because like I said, you collaborate with people a lot as a developer, you collaborate with people a lot as a developer. If that developer also sees it, they understand what is going on by seeing that A tag, they know that okay, what is going on here is a hyperlink. So we have Sematic HTML that makes structuring the web better and helps your browser to understand what is going on. So we have tags like header, nav, footer, and section. So for this header, let's pretend this is a web page, okay? You can wrap this in a header tag. You know, a header is something that you definitely see first on a website or on a landing page. If I'm able to find an example from the website I'm about to show, that would be great. So if you want to embed a header or you have a design that looks like a header in your um in your website, you should definitely wrap it in the header tag because this lets the browser understand that okay, this particular content is a header. Now I'm going to open up this website. Good. Now we also have this nav tag, and this nav tag is used to create a nav bar. You have definitely visited different websites and there's no way you haven't seen a nav bar. But if you don't know what a nav bar looks like, this is what it typically looks like. You always have it at the top of your website with links to maybe other pages or other resources. For this website, this is their nav bar. Okay, so this is a nav bar. Even though you can just open up a div and then add the necessary elements, it is best for you to use a nav bar because it lets the browser understand what is going on. And when people are even collaborating with you, they will understand that okay, this particular section of code is for the nav bar. Okay. And then up next we have the footer, which is all the way here. So this is the footer. Like I said, these things you can achieve them with the div, but because we want good structure and better understanding, that is why we have Semantic HTML. So this is created with the footer tag. But as we start designing, we'll be looking at their use case much better. And then we have section. Now, when you hear of section, it's definitely maybe broken into different parts. The same thing with the web pages. You can break your web pages into different parts. So everything you see here from this first page that you can see, and then this one also, these and these are all sections, okay? And it helps the browser understand what is going on in your website. Apart from better understanding and structure, it improves the chances of your website popping up when a related word is searched. For example, if I look for Lagos restaurants in Lagos, that first restaurant that the search engine shows me, using correct HTML tags contributes to that search results because there's something called SEO, search engine optimization, and this is the act of making your website rank higher on search engines like Google and Bing. So if you use the appropriate HTML tags, the browser will be nicer to you when it comes to SEO. Apart from SEO experts doing their own thing, it is very good as a developer that you use the appropriate tags, the appropriate elements, because the better the browser understands your website, the more chances of you popping up when a related word is searched. So instead of using a div to create everything, and then you just have div everywhere in your code that will make understanding to other developers hard and make understanding to the browser hard. You should just use semantic elements. Okay, so here it says these elements clearly describe their content, making it easier for search engines, screen readers, and other tools to understand the context and purpose of the content. So these are semantic HTML. Like I said, we won't be writing any code for this, but as we start building, because we'll be recreating designs using HTML and CSS, we will definitely look at them. And now we are finally into CSS. It is time to start styling our website. This website, you see how pretty this website looks? See how sleek and how pleasing to the eyes it looks, right? This is achieved using CSS. Remember that HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is the foundation of front-end web development. So even if they use a library or a framework like Tailwind or Bootstrap, it is still CSS because HTML, CSS being the foundation means any other tool that exists for front-end development is built on them. Okay, so that is just that. So we're going to be looking at styling with CSS. CSS is the language we use to style a web page. Okay, and CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. CSS describes how HTML elements are to be displayed on screen, paper, or in other media. CSS saves a lot of work. It can control the layout of multiple web pages at once. What this point at number 4 is trying to say is you might have like 3 HTML files that need the same styling, and you just write one CSS styling for it, and then you just link them together and it will work for all those 3 HTML files. Okay, so it saves a lot of work. And then external style sheets are stored in CSS files. Now, before I continue, I want to say there are 3 ways you can embed CSS into your web page. We have the inline styling, internal styling, and external style sheets. Okay, so let's look at them before we move on. Now, the inline styling, you use a style attribute to embed CSS in your tag, not the entire web page, but in your tag. So I'm going to still use this H1 as an example, and I'll type style. You can see it is already even showing different CSS properties we can use. So I'm just going to change this HTML attribute, this heading tag, to color red. The color property is used to change the color of your text. So I'm going to do red. And you can see it has changed to red. So inline styling means you are writing your styling inside the tag, which means if you want to use inline styling to create your entire web page, you go one after the other. If you have 1000 HTML elements, you go into all those 1000 HTML elements and write their style individually. So when you're writing large amount of code, it is not advisable to use inline styling. Another thing is inline styles are superior to other styles like internal and external, which means if I give this heading tag color red and I decide to use internal styling to change it to color green, it will not work because inline styles are superior to internal and external. Okay, and then the next one we'll be looking at is the internal styling. Now this internal styling, we write it in the heading tag of our HTML. You can write as much HTML and CSS style that you want. So what you do is you open up a style tag over here. Let me erase this and then rewrite this. So you open up a style tag in your head tag, and then the syntax for CSS is that you have your selector. For me, I'll be using a div, and then you have curly brackets, opening and closing curly brackets. Inside of it, then you have your property, which could be background color, text color, or whatever it is that you desire. So I'm going to do background color, and then I'll give it a color of green. So now what this will do is that it's going to select the div in my HTML and give it a background color of green. So let's look at it. So you can see it has now changed to green, but I don't like this color, it's too dark. So let me give it blue, aqua. Let me stick to that. Okay. So this is internal styling. Let me even look at this. So you can see, I said the inline style has more power over the internal style. Even though I came here and I wrote H1 and changed the color to aqua, it did not change, it stayed red. So if you know your design is going to be changing at some point of interaction, do not use inline style. Okay. Now the next style we are going to look at is the external style. And this external style is by creating a separate CSS file. So you can come over here in your folder and then you create a file. So I'm just going to name mine style2 and end it with .css extension. So with this now, I can select every element I want and apply style to them. So what I would like to do is that I would like to add a pink background color to my span tag over here, to this span tag. So let me do this span background color pink. I'm going to use this one at the bottom. Oh, you can see that it is not working even though I've selected the span. That is because you need to link your external CSS to your HTML file. And this is done by using the link tag in your header. So link. Now this link has two attributes, okay? Rel, which represents relationship, and you're just telling the browser what the relationship between the HTML and the file you're about to link is, and then you have the href, which is where you specify the directory to your CSS. Now the CSS file we created is style2.css. So once I add this, it has been successfully linked, and we will go to our browser to check if it worked. So you can see the styles have been applied. Okay, so those are the three types of ways we can embed CSS in our HTML.